Tucker Carlson finally had his interview with Putin, where he quickly received nearly 200 million views on Twitter alone. So predictably, the corporate dinosaur media immediately had a meltdown.
The Russian president turning to right-wing conspiracy theorist Tucker Carlson.
Sleeping with the enemy goes this headline. And this, is Tucker Carlson a Putin pawn?
But Tucker Carlson is going to be there and be the journalist that none of us are.
And I say, yeah, journalist in quotes.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson is not a journalist, not even close.
His name is Tucker Carlson, and he is the only American journalist who has been able to interview Putin since the invasion.
While Tucker's out there like an eager puppy.
Some say Chris Wallace is especially bitter, as Tucker had previously called him out for being terrible at his job.
Probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace. He was the moderator.
Not a friend.
I said, why is it he wants to be Mike, but he doesn't have the talent? It's one of those
bitchy little man.
He wanted to be.
Now, the Babylon Bee believes it's infuriating mainstream journalists because they don't quite understand what actual journalism looks like. But I honestly think it's because a boring 2-hour interview of Putin is pulling in Mr. Beast levels of viewership. Meanwhile, cable can't even pull in 0.1% of what he receives. Where if you look at CNN's page in the same time frame, they struggle to even get Decoy voice numbers on their videos. And I've said it before, despite CNN being a billion-dollar corporation with over 4 decades of experience, on the internet, we're peers. And whatever insulting things they'd have to say about what I do on this channel, we are peers. So maybe that's why Hi-Rez has Tucker doing his victory lap on the has-been media.
The only journalist I trust is Tucker.
They tried to stop me from interviewing Putin. The whole world's lost their damn mind and they're proven. I'm just a journalist getting to the truth. CNN and Fox are dead. No one cares about the news.
And honestly, I think AI Tucker dropping bars is infinitely more appealing to listen to than anything the corporate media puts out. That's why it's great we have the sponsor for today's video, Raycon. And with Valentine's Day coming up, there's no better time than today to find your perfect match for your ears. As I don't know about you, but my ears reject everything they don't feel is the ideal fit, so I was constantly losing earbuds to the floor, which basically ruins your entire day because there's no way I'm sticking that back inside my ears after that. But since Raycon's everyday earbuds come with 5 different sets of optimized gel tips to get you that perfect in-ear fit. So whenever I'm out and about just trying to embrace the outdoors, I no longer have to worry about losing my music to the one-size-fits-all arranged marriage style of earbuds, which is especially amazing as my Raycons are actually half the price of other premium audio brands that have had even fewer features than these Raycon everyday earbuds. And if you click the link in the description box below or go to buyraycon.com/decoyvoice, you can get 15% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping. That's buyraycon.com/decoyvoice for 15% off your Raycon purchase and free shipping. So I just find it hilarious that Fox News fires Tucker, but then has to cover Tucker's work just to stay relevant, because for whatever reason Fox wanted to suppress Carlson's message, and that backfired. And now looking at his numbers across platforms, something equally suspicious is occurring. Because when I search Tucker Putin interview on YouTube, in the top news section, you get NBC, CNN, and Scripps putting their spin on things. Then The Hollywood Reporter, some Democrat shill saying Chris Wawa destroys Tucker, and then finally, the actual video I was specifically searching for. And even despite the suppression, Carlson still managed to pull in over 13 million views. Then when you look at his video on Facebook, I don't even think they'll show you how many times people played this interview. Now, people on social media are bringing up the fact that even the Wall Street Journal reported how Facebook demoted Tucker content at the demand of the Biden White House. But it should be noted that this was about posts regarding the virus years ago. Although it's no surprise, as the Biden administration basically admitted pressuring social media platforms is pretty much their policy.
Our hope is that all major tech platforms and all major news sources, for that matter, be responsible and be vigilant. We want every platform to continue doing more to call out mis and disinformation while also uplifting accurate information.
So it finally makes sense exactly why they freaked out so badly over Elon Musk taking over Twitter, because they can easily suppress the truth by manipulating your search results in favor of the Democrats, and the controlled opposition can do the same by axing anybody that dare actually question their narratives. But Twitter going rogue and Tucker going solo just wasn't something they were expecting, as Carlson finding greater success alone kinda reminds me of Justin Timberlake, leaving behind the dead weight of places like CNN sink of equally forgettable people. As when mainstream media personalities cry over places like the LA Times making mass layoffs at their news outlets, they also criticize Tucker's solo endeavors, landing without the TikTok-style editing editing and sensationalized thumbnails, he won't be able to compete with streamers or YouTubers. But then that specific video quickly racked up 122 million views. Now I do admit in that interaction, I personally catch a few strays. Me being on YouTube, using bold red text in the thumbnails with cartoon-like background music and so many jump cuts it seems like I'm a Navy SEAL, as after 8 minutes you won't hear me breathe once. But I'm not a journalist. I'm more like this weird internet bridge troll that speaks in riddles about your impending doom on this path. Because I openly admit, Tucker Carlson, like him or not, is currently the most important journalist alive, as even if every single word said in Putin in that interview was a lie, in a world of so-called newscasters that are all eager to parrot the same official state-sponsored narrative, at least Tucker is brave enough to ask the questions. Because even prefacing his own interview with Putin, he even calls him out for his nonsense.
One note before you watch. At the beginning of the interview, we asked the most obvious question, which is, why did you do this? Putin went on for a very long time, probably half an hour, about the history of Russia. Honestly, we thought this was a filibustering technique and found it annoying and interrupted him several times, and he responded he was annoyed.
And was brave enough to inquire about releasing journalists from Russian prison.
Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter, he's 32, and he's been in prison for almost a year. This is a huge story in the United States, and I just want to ask you directly, without getting into the details of it or your version of what happened, if as a sign of your decency, you would be willing to release him to us and we'll bring him back to the United States.
And with this interview, we now know that Putin claims to not want to push this war further.
Well, the argument, I know you know this, is that, well, he invaded Ukraine, he has territorial aims across the continent, and you're saying unequivocally you don't.
It is absolutely out of the question. You just don't have to be any kind of analyst. It goes against common sense to get involved in some kind of a global war.
And also talked about wanting a peace deal.
You're saying you want a negotiated settlement to what's happening in Ukraine.
Right. And we made it. We prepared a huge document in Istanbul that was initialed by the head of the Ukrainian delegation.
But to be fair, the Biden administration says not to believe a word Putin says.
And I don't think the American people are going to be swayed by one single interview. And I think anybody that watches that interview, again, I haven't seen it, whatever's said, need to make sure remember, you're listening to Vladimir Putin, and you shouldn't take at face value anything he has to say.
Now, at least to me, it sounds like Kirby states that he hasn't even heard the interview, but already knows it's misinformation, which just reminds me of a kid that knows he's about to get caught in a lie. If his mother says, "Hey, I just talked to that neighbor about their broken window," and the kid immediately starts exclaiming, "Hey, whatever they said is a lie." Now, I don't mean to oversimplify a geopolitical conflict, but after the controlled opposition of Fox News fires Carlson, the mainstream freak out over Elon taking over Twitter, the subsequent meltdowns over Tucker trying to interview Putin, and now the preemptive suppression of whatever was said. I don't necessarily believe Putin, I just find it strange they so desperately want me to not believe anything and everything he's saying. As even Democrats running for president reiterate the sentiments made by Putin.
This is a war that should have never happened. It's a war the Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms that were very, very beneficial to Ukraine and us.
Meanwhile, other Democrats in power keep pushing the American people into sending tens of billions more of our tax dollars. Now, I was gonna show footage from Ukraine, allegedly of forced conscriptions in the streets, women fighting on the front lines, and other videos that could possibly be faked or taken out of context, as social media is a powerful tool when seeking insight from the front lines of a war, but oftentimes can be used for misinformation, especially if you can't identify the places or even speak the language. My issue here is, they want my money to go fight the bad guys overseas. But whenever I watch the mainstream media documenting what's happening, they immediately got called out and shamed by the citizens actually living what they're reporting on. As I keep seeing this 20-second clip of Trump campaigning in South Carolina, captioned, "Trump is asking Russia to attack NATO," but the clip featured is very vague.
Well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You gotta pay.
So even Luke Skywalker replies, saying this is a campaign ad for Biden, with others suggesting somehow Trump works for Putin. Well, let's pull out more than 20 seconds to see the full context of this clip.
Why are we at over $200 billion And the European nations are, if you add them up, it's a very similar sized economy. They're $25 billion. So one of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You gotta pay. You gotta pay your bills. And the money came flowing in. As if I said, yes, I will, you don't have to pay. Yes, I will. Most politicians have said to that, yes, we will protect you under any circumstance. Well, then they're never paying up. Hundreds of billions of dollars came into NATO, and that's why they have money today, because of what I did.
So they cultivated this entire narrative of Orange Man bad, he's ordering Putin to plow into NATO, when in actuality, it was just Trump demanding and successfully getting other countries to contribute to their defense spending of their countries. But now you have washed up celebrities leaning into some out of context clip as if this is somehow a win for Biden. And this instance is just one of many times where algorithmic and media manipulation can make the masses think something entirely fabricated. And the sad part is, it's working. Because now they're turning on Elon Musk and Starlink with claims that his internet service has now been sold to the Russians, with very conveniently taken images of Starlink in the hands of cropped out soldiers, where social media posts have a full story on the devices being sold through Dubai. But Elon Musk himself says this is fake news, it hasn't been sent there directly or indirectly, and when asked if it could be sent there without his knowledge, Elon replies they can't even be activated in Russia. And if this interaction took place not on a platform that Musk controls himself, giving him front page status on all his statements, people would still likely believe that Starlink was sold to the Russians because spaceman bad. And this is just yet another convenient reason we need to devalue our dollars with another 60 billion sent overseas. And anybody even slightly involved in your ability to see that we might not need to do that gets top to bottom bad press from more state-sponsored media outlets and manipulated social media algorithms. Because I could accept that maybe Tucker, maybe Trump, or maybe Musk are all these evil, rancid characters. But how come we only are told to think this when they just happen to challenge their narrative? As I'll tell you right now, I listened to that Tucker Putin interview, and I don't believe everything Putin was claiming. We've seen the media manipulate what Trump says in the headlines because we can easily hear it for ourselves as it's in English. But who knows how accurate Putin's voiceovers really were?
Why do you think the West rebuffed you then? What motivates this from your point of view?
Sorry, but I cannot disclose that information to you, an American journalist. But all I can say is, Decoy Voice is about to drop the hottest mixtape of 2024. So make sure you like and subscribe to this video.
So even though the Biden administration says everything he said is a lie, you can't prove he doesn't think my mixtape is fire. And if you appreciate alliteration over my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how a random surfer accidentally caught the invasion of California on camera.